Hello, welcome back to the bench and the next instalment of the conversion of the fire truck to a Northern Ireland Patrol Land Rover. So, well, hang on, let me catch you up as to where I am so far. Now, the chassis has had a coat of paint, but he says, but we still need to go back and do a little bit more filler work, because I don't know if they can be seen on the camera, but there's some slight indentations along here, around here, here and here. So there's still a little bit of, that one's not too bad, there's a bit there that needs to be. So I've got to go back over and redo this. The purpose of putting the paint on really was not to get it painted, but just to give me an idea of what I need to go back over and do. So that's a job for today. Right, now the the front seats have taken on a slightly, what I hope looks like a rather worn look, where many a pair of legs have slid across the seats and worn the edges and the corners a little bit, and boots scuffing along on the floor and the paint coming up. So hopefully that looks a little bit more used and abused. I'm going to, where you've got the brightness of the metal coming through, I'm going to go over with probably something like some burnt umber or something like that, just to make it look a little bit tarnished. I don't necessarily want it to look rusty, but tarnished, so that it looks like it's been exposed to the air. So that's that. The footwells have been done, and I've been in and given it some wear and tear for boots and heels and so on, and where toes or toe caps have brushed against here as someone's gotten his leg over to get into the middle seat. So it's looking a bit battered, which is what I want. Now, the next bit. What I'm going to do here is three things. Thing number one, this door's coming out. And thing number two and number three is these side sections where you'd have the air intakes will be coming out, and I shall put some netting behind, and then I shall build up a cover to go over those. So that's mainly what I'm going to do now. Oh yes, and I've given the steering wheel a coat of paint. I'm letting that dry, and then I'm just going to try and give a bit of wear and tear just to the top half of the steering wheel, just to make it look like many hands have been pushing the steering wheel around. So that's what we're up against today, or for this episode anyway. So I'm going to pause the video now, because you don't really want to watch me scribing my way through the door. So I'm going to pause the video and I will catch up with you at some point. So just as a thought, I thought I'd say how I'm going to take the door out. I'm going to use a scribe. This one's a trumpeter scribe, and it is quite literally just a case of allowing the tool to do the work. So you just put the tip in and just drag down. This is not a quick way of doing this. You could use a photo etch saw if you wanted to, but this is a little bit more precise. You're actually in there doing it slowly. So as you can see, this is going to take a little while, and quite probably many a cup of tea, and I might even have to break open a new pack of custard creams to help with the concentration on this one. So again, I'm going to pause the video because you really do not want to watch me doing this, because you will be bored to tears. So I will catch up with you a little bit later, because I'm not entirely sure how long this is going to take, and yeah, I'll catch up with you later. One door hole. Hey, right, so I'm going to go and put the kettle on, I think, and make myself a cup of tea, and then that will come out, and that one's going to come out. So see you in a bit. We've been a little bit busy. There's that. So door is out. I've put a small reinforcement strip along here just to give it a little bit more strength. Not much, but just a little bit. That one's out. Still got to do that one. First lot of fillers gone in. I'm going to leave that overnight before I do anything, because there's so much gone in there, it's going to take a while for it to fully go off, so I'll come back to that at a later point. Right, door's moved on, so the door's out. Yeah, I don't quite know how I managed to do that, so I'll need to give that a run over with the sanding stick. Had a look on the internet, and there's not an awful lot of door furniture, so I've made the door release for the inside, and I've also made a door handle, and that's pretty much it. It doesn't have what I've got here. It's all a bit on the support structures of the door, or the door frame, or the inner door frame on here. I've just put this on just to give it some reinforcement, mainly because it is a bit thin. Oop, throws it down. That's all at the moment. I think I'm going to have a quick look at the chassis and see what extra I can do on there. So I'm going to go off and do that, and then I'll come back and show you what I've done. Yes, I've started on the front bumper, just getting this front section down. It's mostly down, but I think I still need to go over it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some paint over, and then I can see what area I need to work on more. So that's about it so far. So we move on. So I'm going to pause up again, and I shall be back later. In order to take this bit out, we need a small pin vise and a drill bit and a converted pen that's got a needle in it. And all we need to do is make a pin mark where we want the drill to start going through. And then basically we just kind of follow might be able to do it without put pressure on it, and As long as the drill bit doesn't wander, we go through. Try to keep them reasonably close, because it will make the next bit that little bit easier. You can try to scribe it out, but not really advisable. I'll leave it at that. So, now that you've got a nice little pretty pattern as such, what we need next, it's just a case of wedging it in and working it through. But I think I might need to put, I'm going to have to, these holes are a little bit too far apart. Through. That one. Might be alright. So, what I want to do is now make big enough opening to get my favourite tool involved, the saw. I think we might be about there. So out with the saw. No, I don't think we're going to do it yet. Yep, nearly there. Right, so. And then just be a little bit careful. It takes a little bit of time, and just take as long as you need. Just nibble away at it. Doesn't have to be spot on, because we can get a file in there and put gouge down, so it doesn't matter because there's some extra plate to go on for the armour. So if you do have a slight accident, it's not too much of a problem. Right, so in we go. That should. Yeah, that's going to go. Right, just need to do the top. There you go. Done. So all I need to do now is go around with the file and clean up the edges, and that'll be that done. So I'm going to pause up. I've gone over the side of the, or the two exposed sides of the chassis, where the areas of where it needs to be looked at again. So that is done. I can't do any more to that now for at least another 24 hours, let that properly go off. I've done the same again on the front bumper, so we'll see where we go with that one in the morning. The steering wheel, now I don't know if you're going to see this, but there is some very slight little bits of the steel colour coming through the black. This is just so that it shows where the steering wheel has been worn and used. I didn't want it to come through too much, but I think I've got that about right. So that's that. Now I lift this up very carefully because it's still setting, but the top part of the door from the roof section has now been removed and it's been stuck to the lower part of the door. The reason for this extra piece is just to give this a little bit more to stick to, that's all. So that's that. Right, you got holes in both sides so we can push that right the way through. So that's all done. I've put some filler in, and I think I'm looking at that. I might need to go over that again, but I've got to leave this now, let it set up on both sides. And the same again for that. It's still way too soft to do anything with. So we leave that for that. And I think I might leave it there. Although I think no, actually I'm just going to do a little bit of work on these exposed patches of metal. I just want to put some very thin coat of something like burnt umber or something on there, just to give that weathered look. So that's the next bit to do, and it'll probably be the same there. It's just looking a little bit too new and too clean. It's a little bit surgical at the moment. We need some extra stuff in there now just to make it look a little bit more weathered. So that's what I shall do next. So I will see you in a bit. Now I've gone over all of the exposed steel colour that's been exposed from doing the chipping and everything, and I've used a very watered down mix of just straightforward Vallejo air, burnt umber. I can't remember how much water I put in, but there was a lot. And I've also gone over the exposed buff colour, which I'm trying to show as being the sponge that would be, or the cushioning underneath the top cover. So that's now had a coat of satin varnish put over the top. I'm going to leave it until the morning, and then I'm going to put another coat on and then leave it, and then I shall be experimenting with a bit of washable dust from MIG, or Ammo MIG. So yeah, we'll see how we get on with that. I might even mix it in with a little bit of mud just to give it a slightly darker colour, but we'll see how we get on with those. Yeah, I think that's it for now. I think we've done quite a bit. We've moved everything along quite nicely. Things are drying, as in the fillers and the filler in the body shell and the Mr. Surfacer on the chassis. The door is sticking. The steering wheel has been slightly weathered. I think with that I will do a little bit of burnt umber just to take a little bit of the shine off, just to give it that weathered look. Oh, and I shall do the same in here as well. So I shall go off and do those, and I'll catch you in the next update. So